everyone, I'm so sad to say, I have fungus gnats in with my tortoises. I bought a plant and I put it in with my little Egyptians. And the fungus gnats, at first I was like, oh, I've got this under control. It's just a couple gnats. I can deal with this. I cannot deal with this. It's been 2 weeks. They're taking over my life. They're everywhere. I find them in my bathroom. I find them in my bedroom. And it's not getting any better. Any tips?
No.
Did you throw out the plant yet?
It's a really cool plant. I can't. It's not.
Give it to one of your friends.
So, or one of my non-friends that.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my gosh.
This is usually a problem in my other day job because I'm a plumber, and boring facts probably, but they actually did an experiment on plants and the way how roots grow in a soundproof laboratory, and there wasn't an ounce of water present at all. They literally just played the sound of water falling close to the plant, and the roots grow in the direction of the sound of water. So every time you flush your toilet in the sewage lines, it echoes underground, and the roots will actually start growing in the direction of the flow of the water. So commonly, grass is your biggest threat there because they obviously love water. But it's always an issue when you suggest to people, look, probably not a table topic, but the biggest macronutrients, what people struggle to absorb and ends up in the toilet is, NPK, Ca, MGS. And it's very good plant food. So as soon as roots start growing in a sewage line, there's ample nutrients for them, and then it clogs the sewer lines. And it's always the ladies that say, you're not touching my trees. And the husband will always say, listen, the tree has to go. So, it's just ironic that you say, the plant's a very cool plant and all that, but clearly it has to go.
There's like a little scientific study going on there.
Listen,
yeah.
Phonotropism, I just Googled it. Plant roots growing towards the sound of water. Plants have been observed to grow towards the sound of water, demonstrating their ability to detect and respond to sound vibrations. This phenomenon known as phonotropism involves the roots of plants gravitating towards... All right, this is obviously AI because it reads horribly. But anyway, pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. That was a long way to back me up on what I said, so I appreciate it, Dirk.
Yeah.
Whoa.
A scientific way to do it. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
No, it's like when I talked at TTPG, I can't even remember what I said, but there was like this random fact that I asked the audience and nobody knew the answer, and then Andrew shouted out the answer, and we actually had a chat about that on the way to the conference. So it reminds me basically of that, where Andrew just says, I've got the longer description of what he was talking about, but yeah.
Everybody
I don't remember it.
Everybody thought I was smart that day, but I was just cheating. So it worked out in my favor.
Was it a species on a photograph or something?
No, maybe a number one killer of tortoises or something like that.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Ooh.
Mm.
I'm nodding.
You remember
but I
what
don't
it was,
remember what
Andrew?
the answer was.
I think I remember what it was.
I was trying to remember. I was thinking the car being run over by cars is what we're talking about, or maybe
It wasn't crows.
Oh
No.
Dang. Maybe I don't remember.
Well, obviously I didn't have that big of an impact if nobody remembers what I spoke about. But no, it's electric fencing.
Oh, you did. Yes.
I do remember you talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Mm.
damn, we failed you, Dirk. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I didn't know there was going to be a test. I would have taken notes.
Yeah, I actually did call Anthony out because I thought in the second talk he was really sleeping because or he was checking his phone. I don't know, but his eyes was down.
It was. I was checking my phone because at that moment we were doing we have this big fundraiser thing, and it just happened. It's a Pennsylvania thing. It happens to fall right on that day of the conference. So I probably did look like I was sleeping, and I was on my phone rudely. but I was probably responding to Steve Enders, who's here with us behind the scenes right now. So you could blame Steve.
I remember that. Yeah.
There's certain slots for the extra give that you're talking about where if you donate at a certain time, it'll double or triple. So
That's
yeah,
what it
some
was.
of those
Okay,
times
okay.
landed directly on your talk. So
That's what
a
it was.
few
I
of
was
us were
donating.
looking down.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
donating. Yep.
I think that's why we had to skip out a couple of the talks too, because the times lined up exactly during the end of, was it Kevin's talk that we had to? No. I think there was 2 talks that we had to miss out on because of that, but otherwise we were definitely present.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Well, I see Phil at least remembered what I said. But yeah, no, it's
Phil's
just
the best.
Yes.
I must say probably the weirdest thing for me, nothing to do with tortoises or turtles, is so many people try and prep you always if they have been to a place beforehand and you have not, and a lot of the guys that I spoke to, and yeah, it's probably not one of those things that you tell Americans, but the rest of the world is quite inclined to say that Americans are seriously arrogant. And I honestly did not encounter that at all until I landed in Los Angeles. Then it was the first time out of my whole US trip that I really thought I'm going to smack somebody if they look at me weird again.
That makes sense.
It's like extremely low tolerant people. They just, it was so intimidating on the one side, landing at LA. There isn't signs everywhere. Maybe I'm just a tourist, but, the Wi-Fi wasn't working over the airport. And that says a lot from a guy traveling from a third world country. And then to try and, there's nobody that tells you need to get on a bus and drive about 3 kilometers to the place that actually gets you the taxi to take you to the place that you need to go. And I felt so sorry for the bus driver, because you can see every person that climbs on the bus, they're like, is this the place that takes us to the taxis? Yes. I'm like, okay, so here we go.
I've driven on that bus
But-
many times, Dirk. I go to LA all the time, and I've been on that bus many times. The LA exit bus. It's green.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed Phoenix and Florida as well. The weird thing is, the US is quite a big country, to try and squeeze in everything all at once. And yeah, just the distance. Chris Leone chatted to me and said, I think it's April where they do the bog turtle research. Then it's a very good time to come over. But again, if you're going to fly that far, you can't just be there a day or two. And then you need to take off work, and it's quite a bit of a commitment, especially if you've got a wife at home that says, listen, I'm bathing a little guy alone, I'm doing this alone. But yeah, no, I really did enjoy the trip. It was quite interesting to see, from my perspective, how a lot of guys are keeping their animals. Some of the things that I don't necessarily agree with. But at the end of the day, if that's how you manage to breed the animals, and the animals are actually looking good, then I haven't got much to fault that. The only thing from a personal side that I would change, is in your Thanksgiving time. There's a lot of excess pumpkins and stuff that's in the US, obviously. And one thing that I started with about 2 years ago is to supplement, the grassland species, even if you are giving them something like pumpkin or carrot, or, I see in European countries, they are quite opposed to a lot of veggies and stuff like that. And I am too, for a large extent. But if you are going to give them, and I know this is one of those controversial opinions, but if you are going to give them something like pumpkin or carrots and stuff like that, is rather chop it up a little bit more finely that the moisture content can be exposed. And then you mix in, milled orchard grass and Timothy hay, stuff that has got large, available fiber. And it's just interesting because, once a week, even with my areolatus, with my adults, I do soak them. And in the water that I soak them, I put in Protexin, which is a probiotic, just to help replenish their gut bacteria. And if you're giving them veggies and stuff like that, it does hinder with their gut bacteria. So, yeah.
All right, we're going to put a pause on this. We're going to put a pause on this. First of all, I just want to say I love that we start every episode by talking somehow, one way or another, about TTPG. I just want to mention that. We're going to roll the intro really quick, and then we're going to come back because I've got some more questions about you and TTPG conference. All right, let's roll it, Steve.
Good. Welcome to the Pondcast, the Turtle Room Show, where the herbs are cool and knowledge flows. Turtles, tortoises, and conservation too. Stories of the wild brought right to you. Research, rescue, education galore. Saving wildlife is what we're here for. With Aunt Fanny, Steve, and Emily. It's turtles, it's tortoises, and all things herpetology. The Pondcast, dive right in.
Woo!
Hey. Hey.
That's so awesome. You got the best intro in the business.
I like it. Yeah.
It makes me happy every time I see it.
I know. It's such a catchy tune, too. Well, welcome back, everyone, for another episode of the Pondcast. We are your hosts. I'm Emily. I almost just got my name wrong. Anthony is here, and we also have Steve in the background as well. We have two guests today. Andrew is back again. He just couldn't stay away. And then our guest of honor, Dirk. Welcome back, Dirk. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And listen, I'm not afraid to say it. I'm gonna say a really stupid question. Okay. I'm not embarrassed. I'm a little embarrassed. I thought it was Tortoise Conservation South Africa, and you have Turtle Conservation South Africa. Am I dense? What's going on there?
That's a good question.
I think
didn't know
it's Anthony.
You think it was my fault?
It's because those South African guys consider tortoises turtles.
Right.
Okay. All right.
That's what I thought.
I figured that'd make you happy, Dirk.
I just inclusive.
To be dead honest, I actually just said TCSA, but it was obviously an American guy that put their turtle.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you, Anthony.
Did I do? Hold on.
Steve must have fixed it.
Hold on. I didn't do that.
Americans, man, Americans. That's what he's saying.
Oh, Steve did it. Oh, I see. Okay.
We messed it up.
He said he's sorry.
Dang it,
Sorry.
Steve. Come on.
I was so sure my title was going to get removed, the Turtle Butler right here. I thought he was going to change it too, but he didn't. So.
Yeah, I'm just glad, Emily, that today you are Turtle Butler and not what was your previous description? It was like entry level turtle herper or something like that.
Yeah, level 1 turtle fan or something, right?
Oh yeah.
Andrew, what was that with the artistic angle there? Anyone else catch that?
My arm's getting tired holding this phone. I'm trying to figure out where I can set this down to point it at me to get me in the screen. So I'm having a hard time over here.
Yeah, whenever you do get Andrew on the line though, I think it's partly because he has an iPhone and partly because his phone just doesn't work. Usually like after 10 minutes it overheats or it just doesn't work anymore. So then he always has to try and find a charger. So.
Well, my problem this time is actually a new phone that I got a couple of weeks ago. So I'm still just trying to learn how to work it. So
And this one's heavier than the other phones, right? That's why it's so hard to hold up.
it sure seems that way today.
Yeah.
Can get tennis elbow out there.
Since we mentioned TTVG before, I just have to say, while we were at the conference, while we were doing the live streams, Anthony and I were alternating holding the phone up for the stream, and I have noodle arms. Okay, these arms don't see any action. I work at a desk now, so during the live stream, I would be holding it, and then my hand would just start shaking because I couldn't hold it up anymore. And then Anthony would just politely reach out and take the phone from me, and then he would hold it instead.
That was tough for me too. That was a challenge. Yeah. It's like plinking. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Andrew's dealing with it right now.
Well, since we circled back around to the TTPG topic, while you were here for the conference, I just wanted to say one thing that you mentioned was that, what was it? Your impression or the rest of the world's impression of Americans and how what was it, arrogant? Are we arrogant? I want to say that I think that that's mostly safe.
I didn't say it. That's just what I heard, and this is not from South Africans directly, really, or maybe, but from other countries as well. And I think in a sense, a lot of people go to, and I think maybe I just did it right in that way. I didn't go to the more traditional touristy places. I mean, the last place that I was in before I flew out via Atlanta was Orlando. And I mean, the I call it a hotel. It's very cheap place. That was just literally the closest accommodation to the airport. And it was like, in your terms, a mile from Disneyland. And, for me, I have no aspiration. Like, personally, when I was in Los Angeles, the Uber driver is like, we're now driving through Beverly Hills and Kim Kardashian's house is close by. I'm like, dude, honestly, I do not care. I've got no aspiration to see where $100 million mansion or anything is, or who lives where, or, show me wildlife and show me nature and all that, and everything is good. But yeah, we got billionaires in South Africa as well. Maybe not as honest billionaires here, but yeah, I've got no aspirations to see where they live or what they do. But yeah, sorry, you were saying?
No, in our defense, it is the city people who are the arrogant ones. Definitely, if you go to Boston, if you go to New York City, if you go to, I'll just say the ones that are near me, so I'm not throwing any other cities under the bus. But most of the city areas is where you're going to find the rude people who are in a rush, who aren't going to give you the time of day. So in our defense, it's not the rest of us. They don't speak for us. Would you guys agree to that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, especially when you're traveling, airports.
But Anthony's from New York, so he's going to try and ease out of this one.
I'm not. I mean, I'm near New York, but not in. So I don't know. But Steve said something interesting in the chat that I thought too. Dirk said that Dirk mentioned that the South African billionaires are less honest, but let me tell you about American billionaires. Anyway, how much time you got, everybody?
Yeah, and also, by the way, you tried public transit in your first time to the US, much less your first time in LA. I don't think I could do that, even if I had my whole emotional support family with me. No way. I don't know. So props to you. It's not easy. Yeah.
Stay away from all forms of public transportation is what I say. Get that rental car and go on your way by yourself. Less people you see, the better.
There was a couple of things. For instance, whilst I stayed at Andrew, there's a lot of things that I haven't done. Obviously, because it was the first time I've ever been in the US, and I was seriously hungry when I landed, and I just thought the good gesture usually when you arrive at somebody's house is say like, I'm gonna get us food for tonight or something like that, or we can get a takeaway. And I just said to Andrew, I would like to see what a Walmart looks like, because I've been told you can get, at some of them, you can get like everything that you can think of. And there was a Taco Bell outside the one Walmart, and Andrew's he kept stalling, and he's like, no, we're not gonna get Taco Bell. And I honestly thought on one side he's being quite rude, because I'm trying to say like, listen, I'm gonna get us some food, and he's like, no, we're not gonna eat Taco Bell. And then afterwards, I got so many people's opinions on Taco Bell, and it was just really weird that how many people actually hate Taco Bell. So I didn't have Taco Bell. I had McDonald's. I've never had a burger as disgusting as that in my life. I had Burger King. It was fine. I had Chick-fil-A. It was awesome. So your Mexican food's really good. That refried beans, that must just be taken out completely, because it just messes up the whole menu. But yeah.
That was the first question that I had for Dirk, was what do you think of our food here? And Andrew, would you agree with me if I say that Taco Bell has just kind of become a meme for Americans? It's like, no one thinks of it as a real culinary option. It's just like, if you're drunk on a Friday night, that's where you go. If you're in college, that's what you survive off of. If you're an adult, you maybe like it, but you don't admit to liking it. Is that fair?
Correct. And you got to build up a tolerance to that stuff. So if you've never had it before and you're from South Africa, it's not going to do you very good. So yeah,
Totally
little
agree
by
with that.
little. And then once your body starts getting used to it, you can consume it. But I haven't had it in over 10 years. So I knew I was going to explode. I was like, nope, not doing it, bro. Not doing it.
Okay, well, I'll get us back on the turtle topic. I think we took a little bit of a turn there. So let's talk a little bit about Tortoise Conservation South Africa. What year did you start Tortoise Conservation South Africa, Dirk?
So it was basically November 2024. So it's still very, very early. It's we can get to the other ones later, but 2024 November.
Okay, and forgive me, I know, in the US they're called nonprofits. Is it called a nonprofit in South Africa as well?
Yeah, so we've got 3 divisions in that category. We've got a non-profit, we call it a non-profit organization or a non-profit company. And then of those 2 divisions, if you want to be able to be tax exempt, then you get a PBO status, which is you then register as a public benefit organization. Okay. So yeah, I'm a non-profit company. The only reason why I'm a non-profit company is because before TTPG 2024, that I chatted to Russ. Russ said I can have a table and everything there. And I thought, okay, well, I'll have a donation box or something like that. And to just try and get everything registered before then. And the department here said, no, cool, we'll have it done in 2 weeks. And 4 months later, it wasn't done. And they said the format that I sent my forms in, after I asked them 3 times, is the format correct? They said the format's wrong. We're going to have to resubmit your application. So I just paid a company to register everything legally and all that. So that's the only reason why it's a non-profit company and not a non-profit organization. Non-profit organization, you have to work directly under the government. A non-profit company, you still need to be audited every year. Basically just a summary and review of your financials. But for the only way for you to be able to get tax exemption is to have a PBO status, and that's much more difficult to get. It also takes a lot more time.
Interesting.
But yeah, at least I'm tax exempt.
Okay.
So are you still working on the other one that takes more time, or you're just staying where you're at and that's good enough for your operation or program?
No. So you guys call it. I've actually forgotten what you call it. But yeah, we call it a Section 18A certificate. So if you want to, I think you can donate a maximum of, top under correction, I think it's $6,000 per company, and then you are totally tax exempt on that amount. So yeah, that's more the for the general nonprofit, it's fine if you can just get in public donations. But if you want to go a step bigger and you want to, for instance, do what I want to do and purchase land and rezone it as conservation status and those kind of things, you need much more capital investment. And then you need companies to invest in your, or most probably just companies to invest. And they, most of the time, they are going to look for that tax exemption certificate. So to have PBO status, the public benefit organization status, which I do have, is quite important for me.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you talked a little bit about some. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Someone had a question. Oh.
No, not me.
I was just going to say, you talked a little bit about
501c3.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, like us having a 501c3. That's what I was thinking you might have meant.
Yes.
You talked a little bit about some of the difficulties of starting and establishing your nonprofit, but what about running and operating it from a paperwork standpoint? So you said that you have to be audited once a year and then that's it. Is there anything else that is involved with it?
Yeah, well, basically, there's a few legal requirements, which I suppose you guys have as well. You do need to have a bank account. You do need to have a paper trail of where the money comes in and where it goes out. And then if you do start a nonprofit here, you need a minimum of 3 directors. It may not be direct family. And yeah, it can technically be a friend or somebody like that, but it can't be like a long distant cousin or something like that. It must be, totally unrelated people. And it does make having a nonprofit quite dangerous in a sense for yourself, because I personally know of people that have invested about 20 years of their life into starting something. And after that 20 years, the nonprofit does make, or at least gets in a lot of donations to do what that person's dream was. And after 20 years, the other 2 directors decide, okay, well, we're going to kick this person out. And yeah, that happens.
Wow.
Oh, geez.
So,
okay.
Yeah, the thing for me was to try and get 2 directors that, for one, they don't really know who each other are. And, some of them are more pro captive breeding, some of them are opposed to captive breeding. So to have 2 peoples on the opposite side of the spectrum with that, but at least I know they will agree with me, because I'm half in the middle.
Is captive breeding a big part of what you do? I'm sorry, Anthony, go
ahead.
Yeah,
that's really just where I wanted to go with that. I thought it was a perfect segue to that conversation. And one of the things that I think Dirk has a lot of really important thoughts on is that piece too, because he does kind of straddle that line. He does have animals, in captive assurance colonies, but then he also is working to protect animals in the wild as well and doing both. And certainly here in America, I wanted to ask about his thoughts on that, but certainly here in America, there's quite a separation between those 2 things that seems to be growing further and further apart over the years. So just interested in hearing your thoughts on that, Dirk, and maybe also your thoughts on how we could continue to move forward in the right direction, kind of turn the tide in that way.
Yeah, well, it's a weird comparison to make, but it's like people that in a way are opposed to hunting. And for the same token, our biggest investors for hunting in South Africa is predominantly guys from the US. And I always say, if you want to do something, somehow it must make money, because other than that, it's not going to be able to sustain itself. The Kruger National Park, which at a stage had 70% of its buffalo population had tested TB positive. So, for instance, our buffalo industry is absolutely massive, and there's billions of dollars invested into that. And for them to actually breed TB-free buffalo. But one of the big reasons for that being a success is people actually coming to hunt them, the trophy animals. And I think what gets misconstrued a lot is people think the trophy animals are your prime breeding animals. And in most cases, if you know what you're doing as a conservationist, and a responsible farmer, kudus, and I chatted with Morgan at the Wildlife World Zoo and asked her, what age do their kudus get? And she's like, the oldest one was 14. And I'm like, that's really old, because in nature, they like max 7 years. And, if you do trophy hunting in that way, last 2 years, and that's the time when the animals are actually past their prime, then they are hunted. Then that money goes back into conservation. So, and how I always try and tie it up with tortoises, a lot of farmers in South Africa are like, I wouldn't say they're necessarily struggling, but for me as the tortoise guy to come and say, listen, electric fencing is the number one killer of tortoises in the country. Would you mind putting up a secondary barrier before your bottom line? And they're just going to think, who the hell are you? You're not getting subsidized by the government at all. Who's going to finance it? So that's one of the things that I try and at least do in that way. I was even thinking of with some of the tortoise ingredients and stuff that I make with the pellets and the formulations and so on, is the plant that I showed you guys at on the outside of the TTPG building, was that the speckworm. Now it's one of the ingredients that the tortoises like a lot, but it grows naturally in the succulent karoo here, like in very, very big densities. But that's going to be a later type of project where you can tell less privileged communities, okay, well, 80% of this, you guys call it ghettos, we call it townships. 80% of this township has no employment. If we can try and chat with local farmers, it is a totally indigenous tree. Obviously, if you need permits in that sense, then you can get it, and people can pluck at least the leaves. The leaves can be dried, and that can be used as an ingredient to make tortoise pellets. And obviously, you can give them some sort of remuneration, but you can tie that in with chatting to the community and saying, if you do get a tortoise, do not take it home. Do not put it in your garden, because there's a lot of strange beliefs in South Africa. Obviously, in some cases, it's consumed as food. In some cases, a chain will be, they'll literally knock a hole in the marginal scoots. And yeah, they'll tie a chain to the tortoise and to the house, and they believe that it keeps evil spirits away. Or that if you put it in a chicken cage, that your chicken is going to lay more eggs. And it's those kind of things. And to take it a step further, one of the things that I'm actually trying to do in this year is to do community outreach, educational talks to rural schools. And one of the weird animals that I want to have, that's got nothing to do with reptiles, and I've got no aspirations in breeding them, is an owl, because in townships, predominantly they believe that if you see an owl, it's bad luck, it's a traveling evil spirit, and it must die. So to show people that, here's an owl on my palm, it's not doing anything weird, it can't really do anything if you've got a glove on. And it's the big thing is to try and get these kind of misconceptions out. And education is basically the main thing for that. So there's a lot of different things where I go to talks and people would say, I honestly didn't think there's that much to talk about a tortoise, or to learn about a tortoise, or to learn about why their importance in in nature is with seed dispersal and all those things. They didn't really think that they had a goal in nature to do. So yeah.
I love
So
that.
bring it
I think
around
it's
full
important-
circle. You're saying that captive breeding and conservation both go hand in hand, and both are good things.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like what I said at I can't actually remember if I said it at TTPG. One of the things is people would believe that the biggest migration in Africa is wildebeest, and it was never wildebeest. The biggest migration was in South Africa, and it was springbok. And when we started getting colonized by the Dutch in the 1700s, when they started erecting fencing, obviously in certain cases they used to hunt the animals till there was nothing left. But as soon as you start putting up barrier fencing and you stop that migratory patterns, you are forcing them to interbreed too much. So that's the one thing. What I always wonder with people that are opposed to hunting and opposed to captive breeding, on the one side, for instance, Anthony, you breed spider tortoises, but if you're going to breed them 4 or 5 generations in, it's going to help absolutely nothing for conservation. But if you chat to somebody else and you get 2 or 3 males in once every 2-3 years, that's helping conservation a lot, because you're changing your bloodlines. And it's what I mentioned at TTPG with the Homopus Research Foundation in Europe, where they were standing at 216 specimens or animals, and from that, the original breeding stock was 2 males and 2 females. And then you'll, for instance, get people that will say, why is it necessary that, that Europe should get in new bloodlines if they have got ample animals? And it's to do with the blood work. So, yeah, I am very for captive breeding in that sense. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question, Andrew.
Can I just take a second? I just want to make this plug. I said we need to make sure that we are making our viewers aware that it is right now 2:39 a.m. where Dirk is. That is incredible. So if you're someone who's looking for someone to support, someone who deserves it, someone who's dedicated to what they're doing, Dirk, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being on with us at that time and literally in the middle of the night. I appreciate you so much. I just want to call that out.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that and I did mention that to Andrew when I was staying at him. I think one of the important things that guys in the external don't always understand, if like from the US or from Europe or so on, and it's one of the things that I always try and distance myself from, because I'm always afraid that people think, it's the guy from the African country. He's just standing there with his hands open, begging for money. That's like the image I always get in my head. When as soon as you tell people I've got a non-profit, it's like when I have to get somebody to audit my books, then I'm like, my name is Dirk Barnard. I run a non-profit, but just to give you info, I will pay you. It's like people always trying to think like, okay, it's a non-profit dude. He's just wants sponsorship. But the little thing, and I always try and make comparisons if I visit another country and see what's different there than here. If I were to see what my conservation goals are, or the amount of money that I need to do certain tasks, and I look at certain things in the US with your average like minimum wage. Let's say it's $15 an hour in most states, roughly. If somebody, or at least multiple people, were to donate 20 minutes of their wealth, if you can call it to my organization in a month, it can really help me a lot. And I think that's what a lot of people are scared of in a way, because they think it's more like a slap in my face of like, I don't have $10,000 to donate to you, but I'm rather not going to donate anything to you, because donating $5 it's like a really cheap move. But the big thing for me, with your corporate kind of sponsors, that's more the money that you try and allocate to what I call the land fund, where you try and say, okay, well, this money goes to there, and you're not touching that money at all. You can obviously put it in an interest-bearing account, and your smaller donations is what you can use. For instance, what the biggest thing that I currently am looking at is to upgrade the rehabilitation area, and in a limited capacity, you always think like, oh, it's not that expensive. And then when you start putting up a spreadsheet and you start checking out all the stuff that you need, it does add up. But again, with all your little smaller donations and so on, it does play, especially from a country where the currency is much stronger than yours. It does play a critical role in the work that I do. And most people probably don't know it, but my nonprofit, we do snake removals as well. In many cases, people can't pay for those snakes to be removed, and then you do it complimentary. And a lot of people think that we are subsidized by government. I personally think that with most of the cases where Europe donates a lot of money to South Africa, they aren't aware that not 1 cent of that money goes to wildlife. Every single cent of that money is either somehow stolen by our government, or it goes for people or children. But none of that money absolutely goes to wildlife. And this is exactly the main reason why I am 100% pro hunting, because if you look at the conservation sector in that sense, all the money that's generated from that, none of it's subsidized by government. Everything is generated by either ecotourism or by the hunting industry. The Kruger Park is sitting with a 500% overcapacity of elephants, and the greenies are saying don't shoot them. But if you don't shoot them, last year, the past 2 months or 2 months ago, they had really severe flooding. But before that, they were experiencing an extreme drought. And then you'll see other animals starving and dying because people want to keep the elephants alive. And you must understand that every piece of land has a carrying capacity. And if you don't, even on that carrying capacity, you must count every single termite mound, because every termite mound represents one antelope. You know, you won't think that a termite mound eats as much as an antelope, but roughly it does. And, you know, but yeah, it's at the end of the day, I still think there's various aspects of conservation that people aren't aware of in South Africa. A lot of nonprofits doing exceptional work, and you know, everything is done via the private sector. And what does help the bigger organizations, I would say at least 90% plus of them have one or two or three bigger donors from an outside country or a big corporate donor within South Africa. And it's in South Africa, obviously, it's because of a tax write-off. So that at least secures them that they know that they are doing the right thing and that they can keep shop open and so on. And then with one of the things where with a nonprofit that you at least think, you know, what am I going to do that can keep my doors open? What can I do for marketing? Okay, marketing is going to cost money. How am I going to get funding in? And the only idea that I have for that, at least, is, and I did chat to Andrew, he's helping me with that a bit, is in October to do a tortoise tour to South Africa, where I actually show people different locations and chat about different conservation initiatives. Obviously, you can make a certain amount of profit per person that's visiting, but the main focus will be to not just talk about tortoises, show them different South African culture, show them that our food is better than yours, show them that our wine is better than yours. And yeah, and we can show you that our tortoise is also better than yours, but you guys are winning in the terrapin department.
Your tortoises are smaller than us, so that's all you got. But yeah, like Dirk's saying, running a nonprofit is extremely hard, trying to get income or donors to come in. So even the individual donors of $5, $10, that all adds up. Obviously, if you have a huge donor, that can cover your operating costs, but you still need those smaller donations to come in and help out with the organization. Dirk was talking about the ecotourism. That's trying to do the tour in October, but it's kind of easier for people to donate when they're getting a little something back from it, I guess. Even the same concept as tax write-offs, the eco get to go travel, check out another country, see a lot of different things. So they get something back for that donation, or they get something out of it. It's just an incentive that helps people give, I guess. So I think Dirk's trying to touch on all of those angles to make his nonprofit work out.
Well said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think the big thing that I'm just trying to do on the one sense, I mean, 2 weeks ago, I used to do it as well, and then I started with it 2 weeks ago as well, again, for officially again, but now under the nonprofit, is doing beach cleanups. Because that actually severely impacts the actual, what we call turtles, the sea turtle population. So yeah, to try and do various things that you actually show people that, you know, you're not just sitting on your butt the whole time, you're actually trying to do something conservation worthy. And I can even see it on Facebook, you know, when you do posts and you say, like, listen, we are registered PBO, or we need assistance with this, your interaction is so much less. But as soon as you just focus everything on a rare tortoise or something, you know, you'll get 200-300 reactions. So it's, you know, I think in a sense, some people are just
Totally.
They're not inclined with charity. You know, it's something that I struggle with personally, just to understand, you do go to some people's houses doing conservation work or removing a snake or something like that, and people will live in a really expensive estate, really expensive cars, and they will have the audacity to ask you, like, you ask 250 rand, so it's $12 to come remove the snake, and people would ask, and it's happened, do you take the money and donate it to a charity organization? And then my answer will always be straight, yes. My car takes the exact same diesel as your car. I was amazed in the US that the petrol stations didn't have diesel in most cases. But yeah, and I just think there's a lot of different things that people are more inclined to try and save: dogs, cats, elephants, and rhinos. But there's a lot less interest in saving reptiles. Tortoises are surprisingly very close to people's hearts in a sense, because on a lot of the coastal communities here, when people go on holiday, they'll say like, yeah, we get angler tortoises in our garden every time, and we feed them carrots and we feed them apple and all this. And then I'm always like, it's not the correct diet for them, but at least you enjoying yourself. But when I tell people about all this urban development and the amount of tortoises that die every day because the environmental impact studies are not done correctly, and the ecologists are basically looking at, 2 species of fynbos, not looking at any insects or reptiles in that distribution area, the estates get approved and bulldozers are sent in without animals being cleared before the time. So the animals are flattened with the fynbos, everything. And then you'll get a lot of people that say, but, why don't you go out there and try and save the animals and so on? And in many cases, those animals are about 700 kilometers from my house. Then I need to drive there. I need to live at another location for, say, for instance, a week. And it comes again back to the hunting aspect. Somewhere you have to do something that makes money to fund the thing that you want to do. And I mean, I'm a volunteer firefighter as well. We had fires, the Mossel Bay fires here in December. Mossel Bay is about 30 minutes drive from me. I went there a few times trying to save tortoises. And then people would ask, why don't you come through to Cape Town and come assist us here? Because we also have fires on this side. Cape Town is 440 kilometers from here. At the end of the day, somebody, and it can't always just be me out of my personal account, finance these things. So, yeah, it is one of those difficult things.
It'd be great if people realize that and we obviously deal with the same thing at the Turtle Room, but it'd be great if somebody realized that for these smaller MPOs or 501c3s or whatever we want to call them, the dollar goes so much further. And if we could just, encourage people to donate a little bit, like the impact can be so huge on not a lot of money because there's such small overhead for these smaller organizations. You're not paying a director of this and a director of that. And, it's just going straight to the projects that are conserving the animals.
This is exactly why I support the nonprofits that I support, is because I know where it's going to. It's not just going to somebody's paycheck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree. Did your little one wake up, Dirk? Oh, yep. Hi.
Hey.
Now my wife put him in front of the TV, and I'm in the reptile room, and he just crawled now to me. That's
awesome.
Aww.
Well, future conservationist right there.
I was just gonna say that. Yes, you're making a little turtle lover.
My wife. I said to my wife 2 things. He has to play rugby and he's gonna catch snakes. So she's not happy about either. But yeah.
That's awesome. What a cutie.
Aww.
Well, at least he got his mom's
Just
look.
not like ring calls,
Yeah.
cobras, and stuff like that.
I was so waiting for that, Andrew.
Say that again, Andrew. I missed it. I'm sorry.
I said, at least that kid got his mom's looks and not his dad's.
Oh.
Mm.
Whenever I can give Dirk some grief, I try to. So I keep.
I
him
love
real.
it. Yes,
That's
I love it.
People in the chat, let us know what questions you have for Dirk. As we, we're about to round the hour mark right now, and appreciate everyone who is tuning in and who has tuned in with us here.
Anybody out there in the audience has any ideas for nonprofits to help generate income or finances? That might be a good insight for us.
We're always open to that conversation. To those questions, yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about some of the things that you do for Tortoise Conservation South Africa, Dirk, and I know that on your Facebook group, I see you on there answering questions from your community all the time. Constantly people are asking, what is this tortoise? Can I take it? Can I feed it? I took it from the wild. Now what do I do with it? So I know that you do a lot of community outreach in that aspect. I think you've got over 9,000 people in that group that you are the one always answering questions, and that is a lot of work in and of itself. I know you mentioned that you do snake rescue, taking them out of people's homes, and I know that they are a species that not a lot of people are fans of. So you're definitely saving lives in that area as well. You also talked about some of the breeding projects that you do, and you talk about going into the field. Are there other things that you're hoping to expand to for long-term goals for Tortoise Conservation South Africa, or short-term goals that you have? Any expansions?
So I always say, the end goal is to live on a farm where you can have a portion of the land rezoned to conservation status. The other part that you can run as a, I'm always afraid to call it a business, but you're going to have to try and do something that you can actually generate income, and keep your doors open and not just be 100% dependent on the public for donations the whole time. So that is the end goal. The short-term goal is to upgrade the rehabilitation area, and what I would say in the one sense, on the one side, if you're not gonna, if I were to not move to a farm, for instance, I've got a double garage at my house, then at least say for instance, I don't get enough funding in the next 2 years, then I would, on top of that double garage, I would build another building, because I've got pre-approved plans to do that. And then you can at least do more extensive rehabilitation at the bottom section and more captive breeding at the top section. But yeah, that's the big end goal would to preferably live on a farm, and then you can grow your own tortoise foods, have a business module that you can incorporate with ecotourism, and educational talks. And then you can actually try and finance everything through that. And obviously you can still be open to public donations. And if there's excess money that you can actually allocate to purchasing, for instance, the neighbor's farm or something like that, to extend that you don't have a designated island, that you have more, yet you're creating a green belt or corridor. So that's more what I would be thinking.
Your little one has something to say.
No, he wants to play with my snake hook.
Oh, see, he's starting dirty. Yes.
And he's being safe about it with the snake hook too. You
Yes.
gotta respect that.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. So it sounds like you do a decent amount of outreach then, right? Is that a big part of what you do, or just something that it kind of comes with the territory?
I had actually started with, for instance, the town that's about a half an hour in the other direction from me. They've got, and they actually, their nickname is Tortoise Town. because there is such an abundance of tortoises there. But in the past 5 years, there's been a dramatic decline in their population. And to chat to the communities there and chat and say, listen, you're obviously not getting government support or anything. It's up to you guys to try and put up speed bumps in the road. So my suggestion there was, out of educational point, is to try and not trick people, but at least get some like a conversation starter. And where the speed bumps are is putting up a speed bump with a description, just pedalis, the next one areolatus, the next one angulata, that people ask, why the hell is there Latin names written at the speed bumps? And then you can actually get people talking on, it's actually tortoise species. In having, more people are inclined to rip out all the weeds and stuff in their garden, is to have a small little fenced off area next to the road. And maybe it may not be as attractive as people would like, but that it's got all the indigenous weeds, the stuff that the tortoises actually do need, that you can, and it's obviously very good pollen areas for bees because it's natural indigenous vegetation. And then getting people to talking on, why is everything completely barren and clean, for the human eye, but then there's all these hedges and weeds and it's even protected, and try and getting people to talk on subjects like that. So yeah, that's one of the things. I have been invited a couple of times to Cape Town, which is about 4.5 hours drive, to do talks there as well. In some cases, the states do have, in some cases, tortoises that are released there, rehabilitated tortoises under permittable conditions. And yeah, just to chat to the estates and the homeowners association on what to do, what not to do, and what to do if the animal has been driven over by a car and where to take it, what basic medication to give it, because in many cases the veterinarians don't know what to give it because they don't specialize in exotics. So yeah.
Okay.
It definitely sounds like there's a demand and a need for you out there. A lot of public education sounds like it's needed, and some infrastructure and just all around knowledge. So seems like everybody that you talk to or approach, you just your info.
Yeah, on the one side, I think where it will be more important is the sector that you're not going to get as much marketing, and that's your rural areas, and that's to do with education a lot. So in many of those communities, there's not internet, stuff like that, and I think it's a very African thing because I see it's with Afrikaans people as well. I mean, I am Afrikaans, and it's like, why do you feed a tortoise that? No, because my grandmother or grandfather told me that's what they used to feed them in the 1920s or whatever. And it's like just being passed on from generation to generation. And it's the same with, the traditional healers or witch doctors, stuff that they believe they can do by harvesting endangered tortoises or lizards. Yeah, it's just generational stuff, and the only way for you to stop that is to educate the public in trying to at least adapt them to, it is 2026, and there's no functional evidence on the things that you are saying that it's true.
I guess my question for you, Anthony and Andrew, is do you feel like we have a similar issue where the public perception of, I have a turtle or tortoise that wandered into my yard, this is how I'm going to treat it? Do you think that we have maybe a similar type of issue here in the US?
I do, for sure.
Yeah.
Andrew disagrees.
Not like what Dirk's saying. He's saying steeped in tradition and thoughts and just on still knowledge.
Mhm.
United States people, they just pick up the phone and Google it. You know what I mean? And they research.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's grandparents saying that, this is a bad omen or a bad demon type of thing, like what Dirk was explaining with the owl.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I might lean a little bit more towards what you're saying, Anthony. I think I see something similar, certainly not in terms of generations and generations have been talking about this is what we do when you see a turtle or a tortoise. But I mean, if you have a turtle wander into your yard up here, people, they see it, they want to save it, they take it into their house, they feed it apple, like you're saying, or they feed it vegetables or whatever they have in their fridge. And I think that we have some similarities and some things that are maybe not as similar. And the reason that I asked that question is because the question I had for you, Dirk, was, is there any message that you want to get out there for people who do have turtles and tortoises that they happen to have living in their neighborhood? And if you had one message for your community, what would it be? Leave it alone.
I think in short, is to rather just give a breakdown on what usually happens. The people pick it up, take it home, because it's a novelty for the child. Child gets bored of it. They feed it the wrong diet. It gets sick. Then they call me. We are looking to rehome the animal. And then I always say, send me a photo. And you can usually see with the eyes, the animal is not well. And what's scary about that is a lot of people say, okay, well, it got sick. Nature will heal it. Let's go set it free again. And, they in their garden, the dogs obviously defecate and all that. Pinworms, all those things get spread. And now you're releasing that animal back into the wild. And now it's healthy, thriving populations that are under threat because you thought you were doing the correct thing in actually removing a tortoise in the first place. So it is one of those challenging things to talk about.
Human perception of species is such a huge indicator of how successful that species will be or not, and that's both on the positive and the negative side of things. I mean, if you look at wolves are hunted near to extinction because they're seen as a threat, but we like certain ones and we domesticate them, and then now in terms of that part of the wolf that is preserved, but in this bastardized human built way as like the modern canine. And then if something tastes good, it gets hunted to extinction, and if we hate it, it gets hunted to extinction. Really the best thing is to just have like human ambivalence, and turtles are definitely not that. People see turtles and they want to pick them up.
If
they want to keep them.
If you look at any critically endangered species, it's got to do with knowledge at the end of the day. Most of the African species that are critically endangered is because of Chinese traditional medicine, and that's a generational thing where people believe that certain things, rhino horn has various things that it can do, and it can increase performance and all these kind of things, but there's no actual proof that it can do it. And it was actually one of the Chinese ambassadors that said, rhino horn cured a person that he knows cancer. And there's absolutely no proof of that. And, millions of people look at these people and think, well, it's working, so let's do it. So it's one of those challenges, is to try and change that generational perspective on what people think they know.
Totally.
All right, I have one more final question for you, because I think that we are competing for your attention now.
Well said.
I want to end it on a happy note. Tell me a fun field story, something funny. I know if you're out there every day in the woods, running through the bushes, chasing turtles, there's got to be one funny story that you've got to end this all on a fun, positive note. Let's hear it. A really good one.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a turtle story, and I'm going to say this completely against myself. But I made a major ass of myself whilst traveling in the US. Everybody gets told, or at least, I'd mentioned, about people telling you the Americans are arrogant and they're very upfront people and very straightforward, and that's not how I encountered it. But either way, that is how you usually do encounter TSA, because they are very, straightforward security at the airports. And, it's the first time in my life that I had to go through a body scanner. We've got like these, just normal beep beep kind of things that you go through. But with especially in Florida, and Atlanta, you have to stand, and then you get this 360 body scanner that wishes around you. And just as I walked through the scanner, I thought, my passport's in my pocket. It probably won't register in the scan. And immediately when I walked through, the guy said, "Sir, step to the side. There's something in your back pocket." And take it out, show it to the camera. And he just said, "Listen, I'm going to start searching your delicate areas. I'll use the back side of my hand for the delicate areas." And I'm like prepping myself. Maybe he's going to touch somewhere where I don't want him to. And he's like, "Sir, which way is your baggage coming out of?" And I said to him in my Afrikaans accent, like, "Straight down, sir." And yeah, he didn't know what the hell I was meaning, but I thought he was gonna search the inside of my legs and asking which direction it's showing. And yeah, he was actually just asking which terminal my baggage is coming out of through the scanners. So yeah, I didn't catch what he wanted to do. Because I just remember there was this one American clip where TSA was actually searching through somebody, and they were going through the upper inner legs, and the guy was like, "I'm looking for contraband. What am I touching now?" He's like, "Sir, that is my penis." Like, okay, that is my penis. So I was half envisioning, that's why he's asking where my baggage is. Where's my baggage coming out of? And it wasn't that. So
Well,
yeah.
you asked for the story, Emily, and you got the story.
Yeah.
That's
I
hilarious.
couldn't have asked for a better story. Yes.
No, it was just like one of those epic fails. But
You asked for a positive to end on.
That's good. Yeah.
It made me feel positive.
That was excellent. Well, Anthony and Andrew, do you guys have any further questions? I don't think you can top that.
I want to
say
start
thank you.
baby one more time. Raise that little kid up so we can see that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
What a cutie.
It is now 3:14 a.m.
Yeah.
where Dirk is in South Africa. That is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe you said yes to us. I'm so grateful, Dirk. I'm so grateful that you came to TTPG with a little one at home. And I just this is what it means to be dedicated to what you do. And it's an honor to know you and to see the work that you do, and in some small way to give you a platform here to share what you do with all these folks. So
you're our hero, Dirk.
Thank you.
Yeah. And one final note is, Dirk, if people want to support you, where can they find you? Where can they reach out to you? Where can they help you? Any last words on that?
If they can't get hold of me, they can always ask Andrew. He's got my number. He's got my details.
Okay. All right. And they can find you on social media at Tortoise Conservation South Africa. And thank you. Well, thank you again for joining
Yeah.
us. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Have a good night.
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Get some
Cheers.
sleep,
Thanks,
Dirk.
everyone.
Good night.